It is once again hard to believe, but Christmas time 2025 is again upon us. And if you are shopping for yourself or a loved one and you need a little bit of guidance on maybe what to get for a Nintendo Switch 2, we are actually going to walk through Nintendo's official Switch 2 holiday gift guide. And I do think that there are some good outlines and general rules of thumb to go over here if you are getting into the Switch 2 ecosystem this holiday season. And there are some good deals and price discounts. This will primarily be a recommendation of the general cover your bases. If you need accessories for a Switch 2, the console itself, who has the best deal on it right now, because there is something, at least in the US, that's going on with the price point of this console, in addition to the big games that have released in 2025. What are some of the ones for certain types of players that you want to have for sure in your library versus some other ones that you might be able to skip over, in addition to some more unique gift ideas like the retro controllers that Nintendo offers for things like Nintendo Switch Online Classics games. If you have somebody that's a GameCube era fan, you can pick up the GameCube controller, which is a great way to re-experience some of those classics. So we're going to get on the same page with all of this information. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And we are starting off right over at Nintendo's official holiday gift guide website, where it says celebrate the season with games, accessories, and more. And I will have this linked in the top of the description rather than it being all the way down in the sources section. I'll have it right at the top of the description for you guys so you can easily find it. But this is a nice layout and a website to kind of see on the surface maybe what you might want to get if you are brand new into the Switch 2 ecosystem. And we are going to start with some of the basic accessories as we're just looking at this picture here, which it does outline what is what, and I will walk you guys through this real quick. So first of all, a micro SD express card is absolutely something you will want to pick up for this console at some point in time. Games are much larger than they used to be, and while Nintendo first party games come on the cartridge and all of the data is on there if you're picking up the games physically, there is something called a game key card this generation, which even if you buy a physical game, the actual data of that game is not on the cartridge itself, meaning it has to be saved on the internal storage of the system. Now, Nintendo has only included 256 gigabytes, which sounds like a lot on the surface, but for example, we have multiple releases that go to 60, and some of the upcoming releases like Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate, we know to expect a 95 to 100 gigabyte file size for that game. That's one game. You have 256 total. 60 gigabytes is not out of the average for big third-party releases right now. 40 to 60, I would say, between games like Star Wars Outlaws, the recently released Assassin's Creed Shadows on Nintendo Switch 2. So storage is something that is absolutely going to be needed to be expanded at some point in time, and that is a really good accessory that you can pick up for a Switch 2, because while you might just think this is any old micro SD card, it is not. It is an express technology. It's a faster micro SD card. Make sure if you are buying an SD card for the Switch 2 that it says micro SD Express. It does not have to be Nintendo branded, and there are all types of different manufacturers that you can pick up on, from Walmart being a really good cheap brand, Lexar amongst others. You can go 256 and double the storage. You can go 512 if you find a good enough deal on that, or if you want to get really crazy, 1 terabyte like what I picked up, the Lexar 1 terabyte card is what I have in my Switch 2, just for future proofing and for a large library of backwards compatible games that take up storage as well. I chose to go with that, but you're going to want more storage at some point, and definitely a essential pickup at some point for the system. You do have the Switch 2 camera accessory. You know, maybe if you're really going to be chatting with friends a lot using the game chat feature, you might want to pick this up. I will say for certain games that utilize it, like Mario Party Jamboree, it might be fun if you have younger or more casual gaming fans that you're playing those games with, but in all reality, the camera doesn't add a whole lot of functionality, I'd say, for most people on the Switch 2, and can probably be one of those afterthought accessories that you might get around to picking up, but it's definitely not an essential for the console. But if you have somebody that you know they want to game with friends a lot, and they do actually want to share their faces while they're playing games through game chat, that is a nice addition to pick up for a Switch 2 in that case. The Switch 2 Pro controller, I cannot recommend enough. This is quite honestly battling for my favorite controller personally between the PS5 controller and this one, as far as its comfortability, how it feels in your hands, and the responsiveness of the buttons. The analogs feel great. They're not those resistive types that are super loud. They're actually very quiet, but they feel really responsive. I try to play just about everything on a Pro controller when possible. Obviously, the Joy-Cons are ideal for handheld mode, but outside of handheld mode, if this thing is in the dock, I am 100% of the time almost always playing through any game with a Pro controller. It is a hefty price point of $95 US, so you may want to look into some third-party options that are less expensive than that, but this is the premium cream of the crop controller for a Nintendo Switch 2 experience, so definitely, in my opinion, it's essential to at least own one of them at some point in the Switch 2's life cycle. Now, you do have some smaller accessory wheels. We won't really get into that. It's pretty obvious what they do. It's Mario Kart World Edition. Like, you can do motion controls just like the Wii era if you'd like. Now, I do want to go back up to the games here and just highlight some kind of staple games you might want to pick up. Which prices are getting outrageous this generation. Mario Kart World, try not to buy this game standalone if possible. This is the bundle pack-in game that you can pick up with the console in most cases. Now, what retailers are doing, and this is kind of a Switch 2 launch window type of sale that you can potentially come across, all of the retailers followed Walmart's lead. Walmart did it first, everybody else did it after. They're basically clearing out their Mario Kart World bundle stock, which is ending from Nintendo. They are switching to the Pokemon Legends ZA bundle going forward. So Nintendo only produced enough Mario Kart World bundles to get them through the fall season, and now retailers, that's an end-of-life SKU. So what they're doing is, instead of selling it for $500 like it normally retails for, when you can only pick up the base console for $449, so then you're saving like $30 total on Mario Kart World. Well, now you can just go find the bundle from all of these retailers still in the US. It's going on until they sell out pretty much. At least that's what it seems like. You can find it for $449. So you're paying the base console price, but you're getting an $80 game in Mario Kart World packed in. If you are brand new to the Switch 2 ecosystem, that is by far the best deal and really the only true discount we're seeing on the Switch 2 this generation so far. Past that, it will go back to just the base console for $449, and we will only have the bundle edition of Pokemon Legends ZA available for the Switch with the pack-in game at $500. Super Mario Party Jamboree plus Jamboree TV, this is an $80 retail listing as well. It is because it comes with the DLC expansion, which is a $20 upgrade by itself. You get DLC content, new mini games and stuff like that that work with the camera. That's actually one of the few games that really take advantage of the camera for the Switch 2. But I will say that, you can buy the game Super Mario Party Jamboree standalone for $60. It's just the Switch 1 edition, but to get the Switch 2 edition, the better visuals and then also the additional mini games, you have to spend an extra $20 to upgrade it. So if you don't want to buy it all together at that $80 retail, you can just get Super Mario Party Jamboree for $60 by itself, which is still a great content complete experience at a $60 price point, and one that's definitely fun for friends and family to boot up together on the Switch 2. Donkey Kong Bonanza is a game that I absolutely recommend you to own in your Switch 2 library if you are new to the console. It is one of the best 3D action adventure platformers we've seen in, well, ever really, and it's DK themed, which is just crazy because normally Mario gets this kind of treatment. It's actually the Mario Odyssey team that's responsible for this game. Their fingerprints are all over it, and it's so much fun. It's a great story. You can literally smash and break like almost everything on screen. You can find all types of new pathways by carving your way through a mountain instead of just going over the top of it. Like, there is a lot of different unique gameplay mechanics that just keep this game feeling fun. There's some really cool boss battles, some great story curves that I did not see coming out of a DK game. Now, you can pick up the base game by itself for a $70 retail price point, or you can do the DLC, which is an extra $20 at an $89.99 price point, which is a steep ask. I don't think the DLC is necessary. The game felt content complete to me without it, and I actually didn't like how quickly the DLC was available after this game's release. Kind of feels like it was held back content, but it is some extra fun side modes. I haven't really gone into Emerald Rush myself. That said, the Donkey Kong Bonanza base game is plenty of fun hours for me. Probably wrapped up my gameplay time around 50, 60 hours, something like that, out of a $70 game, which is looking great. One of the big launch kickoff titles for Switch 2. I definitely think that is a easy recommendation. Pokemon Legends ZA, on the other hand, very controversial Switch 2 title. I will say it's Switch 1 and Switch 2. You can pick up the Switch 1 version for $60, pick up the Switch 2 version for $70. This is a lot of fun for the battle system. If you have Pokemon fans, you're going to want this game at some point in time. They evolved a turn-based battle system into real time in this game. My one complaint with it is that the whole game takes place in a city environment, and it doesn't feel like the grand exploration that a Pokemon game typically delivers on. But that said, the gameplay mechanics very much make up for the lack of difference in environments, because it is just truly fun to be moving around with your Pokemon in real time while battling other ones, and huge Pokedex to collect and catch. There is a $30 DLC that's coming out this month already in December for this game, pushing that price point over 100 to get all the content, which is insane. Not saying that everybody should go pick this up, but for Pokemon fans, you're going to want to get into this one. It is actually a lot of fun. Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is a fun hack and slash beat 'em up style game. It is not a traditional Zelda game, but it is rather what is called like a warrior style game, where there's just a ridiculous amount of enemies on the screen. You're doing crazy combos to take them all out. But what is really cool is the story and the lore is straight out of Legend of Zelda with this crossover, and you are essentially, if you had a Tears of the Kingdom fan, they love the storyline for the Legend of Zelda, and they're just into things Zelda in general. It doesn't play like a traditional Zelda game, but this is really cool because you see all the story events from Tears of the Kingdom from Zelda's perspective when she was sent back in time. So it's got a really nice story arc to it, and I would say even the gameplay, like if you're a Legend of Zelda fan, it's probably worth checking out. It's not going to be the same kind of gameplay experience, but it's really still going to be a fun one to play through. And definitely, if you're into the story and the lore, can't recommend it enough. Kirby Air Riders is a action adventure racer that you're really focused on like beating people up as you run past them. It definitely plays different than Smash Bros. It does not use an acceleration button, surprisingly enough, but rather you will be drifting around corners, boosting into people and attacking them as you're coming up next to them. This game surprised me in the amount of content it actually has. The story mode is really what sold me on the game, because while I do play kart racers with 4 players locally with friends and stuff like that, sometimes I still wanted something of a single player experience from this game. And fortunately, Sakurai and team, the same creator of the Smash Bros series, did deliver on that front and put in a full single player story mode, which really elevated this game for me personally. And I will say that if you're getting Mario Kart World already, you kind of already have a kart racer. This plays just different enough from Mario Kart World that I do think it's worth a second look if you like these type of racing games. That said, it's not going to be for everyone and not really an essential pickup for the Switch 2 generation, in my opinion. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is quite honestly quickly becoming my game of the year 2025. It is my favorite game on Switch 2 by a lot, and I am a lifelong DK fan, and DK was definitely holding the crown up to this point for Switch 2 releases. Well, Metroid Prime 4 has already passed it. This is an excellent installment in the Metroid franchise. I've been waiting for this game personally for over 18 years, since the release of Metroid Prime 3 Corruption back in the Wii era. This is not going to be a game that is up everyone's alley, but I will say Metroid has a big crossover with Legend of Zelda fans, because they have kind of like these unique dungeon style environments you're going through, and you have to solve puzzles along the way. And while this is a first-person shooter by definition, it plays very different than a traditional first-person shooter, because you can target and lock onto enemies and you don't have to aim so precisely, which allows you to like do things like jump, dodge side to side, and dodge backwards, and all these different cool gameplay mechanics that you're not typically focused on in a first-person shooter. Like there's platforming in this game. You know, you'll get a lasso whip at some point that you're going to be going from wall to wall with. It's just, there's a lot of cool stuff here, and Samus's psychic abilities this time around have really ramped up things in terms of enjoyment for me. Like you are constantly progressing and getting new abilities. You're in a beautiful world. It's one of the visually the best, one of the best looking, if not the best looking game on Switch 2 right now, hands down. It runs at 4K 60 or 120 frames per second at 1080p, which is insane. I really can't recommend this one enough. Even if you're not familiar with the Metroid franchise, this is a good starting point. Even though it has 4 in the title, you do not have to play Prime 1 through 3 to hop into this one. The story is completely original and off on its own. So that's going to be a heavy recommendation for me. For anybody that's kind of, you know, Legend of Zelda-esque type of, if you enjoy that kind of gameplay feel, I think you have to give this one a chance. Even though it plays differently, it does have that same similar feeling of discovery and progression. The last games on screen here, just for the sake of time, we're gonna breeze past, but Hades 2 is a good pickup at $29.99 for like a isometric dungeon crawler roguelike. Drag X Drive is one that I really wouldn't recommend. There is a free demo. It just, the gameplay doesn't click for me, but if you want something that really uses, you know, the Joy-Con mouse controls, that's kind of what this is from Nintendo, more or less like a demonstration of what those can be used for. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is a great Switch 1 game, and it got DLC and a Switch 2 version at $79.99. Tears of the Kingdom, an essential must own in any Switch or Switch 2 owners collection, but this is the Switch 2 edition at the $80 price point. If you have this game already on the Switch 1, it works on the Switch 2. You can either be a Nintendo Switch Online member and get the upgrade pack for free, which you do have to be part of the expansion pack membership tier, or you can go ahead and pick up this upgrade pack at $10. You don't have to rebuy the Switch 2 edition unless you just don't own the game at all and you want the Switch 2 edition. That would be the case that you would buy that at. Same thing goes, everything I just said for Tears of the Kingdom applies to Breath of the Wild identically. So consider those, if you don't own them already, just picking them up on the Switch 2 edition. If not, just upgrade your existing versions because they will work. Okay, now to go down the page further, just want to highlight some kind of unique gift ideas. I think I actually went past it here, but there is a classic gifts for retro fans, and I wanted to highlight this because if you're not feeling like you want just the traditional games to shop for yourself or someone else, these are actually some really good ideas to pick up for Switch 2 owners. Many of them work with Switch 1, but this GameCube controller, for example, right here, $70 pickup from the My Nintendo store. You can't find this at retailers. It's only sold from Nintendo, and this works flawlessly with the GameCube Classics library on Switch 2 that's available for Switch Online expansion pack members. And I will say that it is an ideal way to play the GameCube games because they have a different button layout. And, you know, as you can probably see, it makes sense maybe to play some of those classic GameCube games with this controller, but you can use it for other games as well. So they can use this, you know, as a multiplayer controller in addition to the Pro controller when you're booting up certain games. It might make more sense to use them on some games more than others, but that is a nice one for Switch 2 owners to have. You do have the same thing available for the classic NES library where you get 2 controllers for $70. This works with Switch 1 and 2, and you can play, obviously, you know, the original Super Mario Bros. Like the good old days, but on a Switch or Switch 2 with the original controllers. Those work with both systems. N64, it goes without saying, one of the weirdest controllers of all time. And if you have nostalgia for it, probably a good pickup and definitely one that makes sense to play through the N64 library with. And then, you know, of course, we have I thought that we were going to get to a couple of the other. Yeah, here we go. So Super Nintendo Entertainment System controller. This is one of my favorite controllers of all time. So I did end up picking this out. It's probably all the way down here because it is indeed sold out right now. Hopefully they get a restock going before Christmas time. But if not, you know, this would be one to skip up on for now. But $34.99 for that controller. If you're a fan of that era of gameplay, I would definitely recommend it. So that's just a quick little brief look at Nintendo's buying guide on their own website. Again, I have this linked in the description down below if you guys want to hop into it and check it out yourself. There is a lot of different things you can go through here. If you're more into sports games, they have sections for that. They have shop by series. Like, you can just go through and look at a lot of different stuff here. So it's a nice put together website. Wanted to highlight it with you all today as you're out there probably doing your Christmas shopping for friends and loved ones yourselves. So let me know in the comments down below if you are hopping into the Switch 2 ecosystem for the first time this holiday season, or if it's something that you're expecting to get for a Christmas present maybe. And are there any games that you're very excited to check out on the Switch 2? And what do you think of the overall deals and price points we've seen so far this year in 2025? So make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell. And with that, I've been Sunbro, you've been Nation. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.